listening to the Wrestle Havoc podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the Wrestle Havoc podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky DeReyes right here on the Wrestle Havoc podcast, here to review AEW Dynamite's title Tuesday from October 10th, 2023. What a week it has been in the world of professional wrestling. Of course, the main thing that everybody is talking about was the head-to-head competition between AEW and NXT this past Tuesday. And honestly, I didn't really view it as a big deal, to be quite honest with you. I could care less of a shit of this supposed war that is going on in the wrestling business right now, because at the end of the day, even though Tony Khan will tell you it's a war, it is not a war at the end of the day. And speaking of Tony Khan, this man has been going absolutely fucking crazy on social media. You know, it's pretty funny. From a fan's perspective, I'm on Tony Khan's side with this because at the end of the day, and a lot of other content creators will say this, Tony Khan on social media is just hilarious, and it's the best version of Tony Khan. But at the end of the day, if you look at it from a professional standpoint, it's kind of stupid at the end of the day, especially after the ratings came out this past Wednesday, which was hilarious, to say the least. But the ratings came out, of course, NXT, with the usage of all of the Avengers, basically pulled in damn near 1 million viewers, and AEW at the end of the day reached roughly around 600,000 viewers, which, I mean, and AEW was not even on their night, so it was pretty obvious that that was not going to be the case. But they did beat NXT last year when they were on Tuesday, but it was obvious that NXT was going to win this year. But nonetheless, what was Dynamite tonight? I thought Dynamite was a great show. This card was absolutely stacked. Of course, they called it Title Tuesday. Of course, we not only had the in-ring debut of Adam Copeland, a.k.a. Edge. It's going to be very tough to call him Adam Copeland, but we had matches like Bryan Danielson versus Swerve Strickland in a number one contendership for the TNT Championship. We had Hangman Page versus Switchblade Jay White. Saraya defends her AEW Women's World Championship against Hikaru Shida, and a lot of other matches that happened on this show. But to say the least, I very, very, very enjoyed this episode of Dynamite. It was a pretty good episode. I enjoyed it. One of the best Dynamite episodes in a while, to say the least. But nonetheless, before I get on with all this craziness regarding AEW Dynamite, please make sure to like and subscribe to the Wrestle Havoc podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the frickin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Of course, if you guys had missed it, the AEW Wrestle Dream review, even though it's a little late, the Wrestle Dream review is up on the channel. I talk about Edge, aka, once again, Adam Copeland, being all elite with All Elite Wrestling, making the save after the amazing Darby Allin and Christian Cage 2 out of 3 falls match for the TNT Championship. We had matches like Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page, with Swerve Strickland getting the win. And of course, a technical wrestling masterpiece between Bryan Danielson and, as a lot of people proclaim to be, the best technical wrestler in the world, Zack Sabre Jr. So if you guys haven't checked out the AEW Wrestle Dream review, the link will be in the description below. Also, I have another pay-per-view review, WWE Fastlane. Yes, Fastlane was this past Saturday, and it was a pretty good show. I thoroughly enjoyed this show for what it was. Of course, we had a very good last man standing match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Seth frickin' Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. We had John Cena teaming up with LA Knight to take on Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. A lot of crazy stuff happened on this show. Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso are your new Undisputed Tag Team Champions. A lot of stuff happened on this show. If you guys haven't checked out the WWE Fastlane review, the link will be in the description below. Also, if you guys want to follow me on social media, I am on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. If you guys haven't checked out all those different accounts, please do so and follow me on social media. Also, subscribe right here on the YouTube channel for more content right here on YouTube. All right, let's kick it off with the AEW Dynamite Title Tuesday review. Of course, the show kicks off with one of the best, if not the best thing going on in All Elite Wrestling right now, and that is Mr. Christian Cage. I can remember when he first came into AEW, I would always call him the Instant Classic. If you guys watch TNA, you guys know what I'm talking about. But I'm not going to call him the Instant Classic right now because at the end of the day, he ain't no Instant Classic. He's an Instant Savage, which, of course, goes to show you how well this character of Christian Cage has really progressed in the last couple of months. But, of course, he is in the production truck because he's Christian Cage and he can do whatever the fuck he wants. Christian Cage cuts a promo. He mentions Bryan Danielson versus Swerve. Of course, the winner will go on to Collision and challenge him for the TNT Championship. And he stated, a little birdie told me that he fancies himself as the best wrestler in the world. Birdie, Bryan Danielson's daughter. What a fucking savage. Talks about how Luchasaurus will end Adam Copeland, and as the face of TNT and the face of Warner Brothers Discovery, he will deem this show, the first 30 minutes of this show, commercial-free. Because he is Christian Cage, and he can do whatever the fuck he wants, because he is Christian Cage. Very hilarious promo by Christian Cage. Christian Cage never disappoints whatsoever. All right. Let's go on and talk about Bryan Danielson versus Swerve Strickland. That was the opening match of Dynamite. This was a very good match. Of course, the momentum is high right now when it comes to Swerve Strickland. Swerve Strickland right now is on a roll after beating Hangman Adam Page. And a lot of people, and I 100% agree, are saying, it's not a matter of if he will win the AEW World Championship, but it's a matter of when he will win the AEW World Championship. Because at the end of the day, Swerve Strickland is a star in the making. He is the total fucking package, just like a guy like Switchblade Jay White, who will be in the main event at Full Gear at the Kia Forum next month against against MJF for the AEW World Championship. All right. Let's go ahead and talk about this match. Of course, this is the number one contendership for the TNT Championship. Now, it's very interesting, to see who is going to be winning this match. On one hand, it would make sense for Swerve to win this match against Bryan Danielson because he's on a roll right now after beating Hangman Page. But at the same time, it wouldn't make any sense considering you would have to feed him to another heel in Christian Cage, and Swerve Strickland right now is another heel. But I'll talk about later on what happened in this match. Right now, I'm going to go through the whole match. We get a knuckle lock by both men. We get a slap by Swerve and then a slap by Danielson. Swerve trips Danielson, and then we get a crucifix pin by Swerve, and we get a near fall, followed by an inside cradle by Danielson, but then we get a series of inside cradle reverses by both men. Danielson gets taken to the apron, but then Swerve runs into a boot by Danielson. Both men exchange chops. We get a kick by Danielson, but then Swerve pushes Danielson onto the turnbuckles. After that, Swerve hits a side slam on Danielson on the apron. Swerve takes out Danielson onto the top rope. Then he drives his knee onto the back of Danielson, but then we get a cover and a kick out. We get a series of body shots by Swerve in the corner. He then sends Danielson in the corner, but then we get a power slam by Swerve followed by a brainbuster. Then we get a cover by Swerve and a kick out. Swerve hits a backbreaker on Danielson. Swerve goes to the top, but then he ends up hitting a 450 splash, but Danielson gets the knees up. That instinct right there. Danielson goes for the jumping knee off the apron on the outside on Swerve. Danielson takes Swerve into the ring, but then Danielson goes to the top. He hits a shotgun dropkick off the top, but then he goes for the series of yes kicks. After that, we get a kick on the side of the head of Swerve. We get a cover and a kick out. We get a cover by Danielson and another kick out, followed by a chop by Danielson in the corner. Danielson runs back into a kick on the midsection by Swerve. After that, Swerve goes for the senton over the top rope. Danielson escapes and goes back into the ring. Danielson runs towards Swerve, but instead lands into a right hand by Swerve. Swerve places Danielson onto the top rope, but then Swerve goes to the top as well as Danielson hanging upside down, and Swerve ends up hitting the Swerve Stomp onto the top on the apron on Danielson, which looked absolutely fucking brutal to say the least. Then once we're back into the ring, Swerve is on the top. He tries to go for the stomp once again, but then he ends up missing. After that, Danielson goes for the single leg Boston Crab. And then he ends up wrenching the knee of Swerve Strickland and transitions into a heel hook, or from what it looked like, it was a heel hook via the commentators on commentary. Swerve then makes it to the bottom rope. He drags Swerve into the center of the ring. Danielson goes to the top, but then Swerve ends up hitting a right hand on Danielson. Swerve then sets up a superplex. After that, Danielson escapes. He pushes Swerve sitting on the top turnbuckle, but then Danielson goes back to the top. Danielson ends up hitting a back suplex off the top rope on Swerve. Danielson then wants to, as Bryan Danielson would say in his own terminology, I want to kick his fucking head in. So what happens is Danielson basically stomps on Swerve's head. Swerve begins to no-sell and starts to look at Danielson with an angry look on his face. Then Danielson kicks him faster, and then he applies the label lock. Danielson wrenches the arm of Swerve, but then Swerve gets his foot on the bottom rope. Repeated kicks by Danielson, but then we get a running kick into the corner by Danielson. Danielson then runs into the corner, but then Danielson drops down, selling his ribs. So at this point, Swerve is beginning to regain the momentum in this match. Swerve then ends up hitting the house call, and then Swerve, he hits the Swerve stomp off the top. We get a cover and a kick out. Swerve then continues, or I should say counters Danielson in the corner with a powerbomb, and then we get another cover and another kick out. Prince Nana, Mr. Dancing himself, distracts the referee. And what happens is Swerve ends up grabbing the crown of Prince Nana, but Hangman, out of nowhere, comes out and takes it away from Swerve. And what happens is Danielson ends up trying to go for the Busaiku knee, but he misses. Then Swerve tries to go for the JML driver, but Danielson ends up countering into a roll-up, but we get a near fall. Then what happens? Danielson finally catches Swerve, and he hits the Busaiku knee, and we get a cover, and Danielson gets the win, and he will face Christian Cage this Saturday on AEW Collision. Overall thoughts on this match. I thought this was a pretty good opening match, between two guys that are 100% deemed top guys. Of course, Danielson is the top guy, but Swerve is definitely up the ladder. And Swerve, even though he lost this match, he did come out strong in this match, and it was a fuck finish with Hangman Page interfering in the match again. You know, a lot of people I see on the internet, some notable names as well on the internet, are saying that this match has no story. Well, you can say that, but Swerve is still in a storyline with Hangman Page, and Hangman Page came in and basically cost Swerve Strickland the match, and the Mogul Embassy ended up costing Hangman Page his match, which led to Jay White getting the win in his match. So clearly there was story, just not with the two wrestlers involved in the ring, but in their particular feuds. For example, Swerve and Hangman, they were progressing their story, and it clearly shows that there's going to be an eventual rematch coming up at Full Gear further on down the line. And I'm not mad about Swerve Strickland going up, not facing, I should say, Christian Cage at Collision, because if Swerve ended up, even though it would have been great if Swerve won this match clean, think about this. If Swerve won this match clean, it would have been great, because, again, he not only pinned Hangman Page, but he would have beaten Bryan Danielson clean. You would eventually run into a corner in which you have a heel versus heel, and you would have Christian Cage basically just beat the shit out of Swerve Strickland at the end of the day, and we don't want that right now. Maybe you could have implemented something with Hangman, but it wouldn't make any sense at the same time because you'd have Hangman helping Christian. Just a lot of freaking problems you'd enter in if you booked a Swerve versus Christian Cage match. Danielson getting the win was the right decision to make, and honestly, I'm very much intrigued about a Christian Cage and the Bryan Danielson match this Saturday on Collision, because Collision needs all the fucking work. With all due respect, those ratings for Collision ain't looking good, with all due respect. But it was a pretty good match, a pretty good opening match, to say the least, to kick off AEW Dynamite. And if I'm lagging on this review, my apologies. It's OBS. A lot of shit has been going on with OBS recently. I don't know why. We got a Samoa Joe video package. Of course, this is the second video package that they aired on Samoa Joe, and honestly, I'm loving what they're doing, and it clearly shows that Samoa Joe is still having his eyes set on the AEW World Championship, so his supposed feud with MJF is not over, which I absolutely love because it's stacking the deck against the World Champion, who is right now a babyface, and we do not know if he's going to be the guy to turn on Adam Cole, because the turn will happen. It's just we do not know when the turn will happen. But at the end of the day, this was phenomenal, and I loved this video package that they aired on Samoa Joe. He said, "Hello, my name is Samoa Joe, your king of television and soon-to-be AEW World Champion. This Saturday, he begins his road to gold, and he shows the world why he is the domination made flesh and why he is the man that takes what he wants from anybody. And this Saturday, he begins his ascension to greatness. Whatever you're doing with Samoa Joe in these video packages, keep doing what you're doing. But I urge them not to do this every fucking week with Samoa Joe just having squash matches after squash matches after squash matches after squash matches after squash matches. They did that with fucking Miro, and now they're probably doing that once again with Wardlow. And we do not want that with Samoa Joe because Samoa Joe deserves better. Squash matches are fine, but Samoa Joe's already established. Okay? So just take that note right there. Chris Jericho versus Powerhouse Hobbs. This match was pretty short, to say the least, but everything about this match was great. Of course, Powerhouse Hobbs is the newest member of the Don Callis family, and they're trying to really show that Powerhouse Hobbs right now is on a different level, and he basically dominated Chris Jericho throughout the majority of this whole match. So I'm going to go through the match real quickly. Hobbs goes after Jericho. Jericho goes for a boot into the corner, but then Hobbs ends up going for the spine buster, the first of many spine busters in this match. We get a cover by Hobbs and a kick out by Jericho, but then we get repeated right hands by Hobbs. He ends up hitting a second spine buster and then hits a third spine buster. After that, we get a headbutt by Hobbs on Jericho. Then he ends up hitting a fourth spine buster. He drives his knees on Jericho, but then he drives a boot onto the face of Jericho. Meanwhile, Don Callis is screaming for Hobbs to continue to punish Chris Jericho. He hits a fifth spine buster, and then Jericho fights back. He tries to fight back, at least with a series of elbows, but then we get a shoulder tackle by Jericho. Jericho then gets taken into the corner, and then he ends up ducking. And then he hits the code breaker on Hobbs, and then we get a cover and a kick out. Then we get repeated right hands by Hobbs, once again by Jericho. Then Hobbs goes for not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but he goes for the sixth spine buster on Chris Jericho. Hobbs continues to drive his knee on Jericho, but then he picks up Jericho. Jericho escapes. He kicks the knee of Hobbs, but then he hits a chop block. Then Jericho tries to apply the walls, but then Hobbs escapes. Hobbs picks him up. He slams him down, and we get a cover by Hobbs and a kick out. Then he hits the slam once again on Jericho, and we get a cover, and Hobbs wins the match. After the match, Hobbs picks up Jericho, and he hits a slam for the third time. So he ends up hitting 2 slams and 6 spine busters to get the win, plus an extra slam after the match. This is exactly what they needed to do with Powerhouse Hobbs. Absolutely. This is perfect. Because, again, it not only establishes Powerhouse Hobbs as like an imminent threat, but the Don Callis family gets more and more and more established. And I'm loving what they're doing with the Don Callis family. They now have Takeshita. They now have Sammy Guevara. Apparently, Will Ospreay is a new member now. He's not signed with AEW, but he's been making a shit ton of appearances on AEW TV because he's still under contract with New Japan, but his New Japan contract is coming up, so we're going to be on the lookout on the status of Will Ospreay, whether or not he's going to be signing with AEW. I assume he is going to be signing with AEW, but I'm going to assume right now that he is a part of the Don Callis family. Now we have Powerhouse Hobbs. So honestly, what they're doing with the Don Callis family is phenomenal. And what they're doing with Jericho, they basically have 2 simultaneous stories going on in one story, which I like. A lot of people talk about how AEW does not have any stories, which is such a fucking lie because clearly these people do not watch the product. But they have the Kenny Omega and Don Callis story and the Chris Jericho and Don Callis story kind of intertwining with one another, and both of them, of course, are teaming up because they have the same goal in mind. So I dig that, and there's a lot of progression going on with the Don Callis family. Adam Cole in a video package with the Kingdom and Roderick Strong. These past few weeks, man, Adam Cole, of course, he got injured at Grand Slam, and from what it looks like, the injury is very, very, very severe. Or is it severe? I don't know, because for the past 3 weeks, or for the past 2 weeks or a week, Adam Cole has been in Roderick Strong's house, and his house has apparently no cell service, and there's no TV, and apparently it's in the middle of nowhere, and Adam Cole needs to rush and get surgery. I don't know. But Strong wants Adam Cole to cut his grass with one leg. Cole finishes cutting the grass, and he wants to change his shirt, and they give him a Kingdom shirt. And, of course, the Kingdom are sitting at a couch with Adam Cole and Roderick Strong. They have a giraffe, and Cole says that there's no cell service or TV. And you know what Strong says? TV is the devil. Cole then says he still needs to get a surgery, and then Strong, once Adam Cole is leaving, Adam! He says one more thing. Adam! One more thing. What are my thoughts on this? Now, there's a lot of things to talk about, and number one, and this is something that's very important that they didn't really follow up on. They would mention it briefly, but they didn't really follow up on, which I think is a major mistake. Who was the guy that attacked Jay White in the Devil Mask? That is the biggest question that I have right now. Because 2 weeks ago, it was such an awesome cliffhanger on Dynamite. And they still mention it. They still mentioned it last week, and they still kind of mentioned it in a way this week. Technically, I don't think they did. But still, there was no real follow-up to who attacked Jay White. Maybe that is intentional. I do not know. But it was such an awesome cliffhanger that you would think they do a major follow-up on that, but they unfortunately didn't. Maybe they will follow up on that, but I don't want them to wait too long because it was such a good angle that they did 2 weeks ago. But nonetheless, this Adam Cole and Roderick Strong thing has been fucking hilarious. Hilarious in a good way. I don't know about you, but the production team in AEW, it's really Adam Cole, but like the production team as a whole, when they air these types of video packages, and we've been seeing this for the past couple of months with Adam Cole and MJF, when they would go to that little, bounce park, that indoor bounce park, or, they would go to a restaurant, the way that they would shoot these types of expressions in, anything comedic, whether it's Adam Cole cutting grass or MJF basically playing dodgeball and hitting balls against kids, like, these slow motions and like just expressions is the funniest shit that really doesn't get a lot of praise, but they really should get a lot of praise because it's been absolutely fucking hilarious. But nonetheless, even though a lot of this stuff is hilarious, of course, it's going to lead to something very dramatic and very, very, very sad, depending how you think about it. But it's all going to lead towards the turn with whoever turns on who, because right now MJF is on a different level as a babyface. Like, he is such a good babyface right now. It's absolutely insane. At first I was really against the idea of MJF being a babyface because I've always said once he loses that title, you can then turn him babyface. But I don't know, man. I feel like the story with Adam Cole and MJF has taken a life of its own, and it's really working towards MJF's benefit because now he is a babyface that the fans can connect with. It's kind of similar to WWE in a sense because throughout the past couple of years, we would all shit on WWE with the way that they would treat their babyfaces. For example, the Roman Reigns babyface experiment that failed tremendously with them shoving, Roman Reigns down our throats. Now we have a guy like Cody Rhodes who, even after losing at WrestleMania to Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes is still like a bigger babyface because of it. And the fans are gravitating towards a guy like Cody Rhodes as well as a guy like Jey Uso. And now fans are gravitating towards a guy like MJF, which is great to see. So I absolutely love what they're doing, but it's very interesting with these video packages, what they're doing with Adam Cole and the Kingdom. Apparently now Adam Cole is just stranded and he hasn't gotten his surgery and it's been like 3 fucking weeks. So it's interesting whether or not the injury is a work or not. I mean, we do not know. I mean, apparently the severity of the injury is very bad, but still, if this whole thing was a work, it's a fucking genius. Rey Fenix versus Orange Cassidy for the AEW International Championship. Now, originally this match was supposed to be a rematch from Grand Slam with Rey Fenix defending his International Championship against Jon Moxley, but of course, if you guys do not remember, Jon Moxley got injured in the match against Rey Fenix at Grand Slam, in which they had to call an audible, which led to Rey Fenix getting the win. And he was supposed to wrestle Rey Fenix in this match on Title Tuesday, but unfortunately, Jon Moxley was not medically cleared to compete, which honestly, I'm fine with because safety comes first at the end of the day. But nonetheless, we had Rey Fenix versus Orange Cassidy. And it was a pretty short match. Orange Cassidy, of course, he had a shit ton of momentum going for him, and now he's just teaming up with Hook, but then, he's going after the international title. I don't know, it's very weird. AEW, unfortunately, and I have to say this, when it comes to momentum, AEW is just not good with momentum and how they handle momentum, with all due respect, but it's the God's honest truth, so they really need to fix something like that, because after the Jon Moxley match, Orange Cassidy was just on another freaking level. But we're going to go through this. Both men exchange strikes and shots. We get a clothesline by Fenix on Cassidy. Fenix then tries to go for the German suplex, but his back gives in. After that, we get a running kick by Fenix on Orange Cassidy, and then we get a cover by Fenix and a near fall. Then he hits a thrust kick. Fenix goes for the frog splash off the top, but then we get a cover and another near fall. Fenix picks up Cassidy, but then once again, his back gives in. After that, Fenix is on the outside. Orange sends Fenix to the barricade, but then he sends it to the barricade again on the other side of the barricade. So he's basically acting like Roosh, if you think about it. We get a chop by Orange Cassidy on Fenix. He pushes Fenix to the ring post, but then he sends Fenix back into the ring. Orange then sweeps Fenix on the apron, but then he sends Fenix back into the ring. Orange goes to the top, but then Fenix comes in with an uppercut. Fenix then tries to go for the muscle buster, but then Orange hits the diving DDT on Fenix. Then he goes for another spinning DDT, and then we get a cover and a near fall. He sets up the orange punch, but then he runs into a thrust kick. Fenix then again sells his back. Cassidy goes for the beach break after that, and then we get a cover by Cassidy and a near fall. We then get the orange punch by Cassidy, but then Cassidy goes for his mousetrap pin attempt, and we get a cover, or I should say after the mousetrap pin, he gets the 1-2-3, and Orange Cassidy regains the AEW International Championship. Now, I see a lot of mixed reactions on this whole thing, which I'm not surprised by. I see fans saying that this doesn't make any sense, but this was a decision that was, if you think about it, made last minute. Now, I would assume that a title change, whether if it was Orange Cassidy or Jon Moxley, was going to happen regardless. I think Jon Moxley, if you think about it, at Grand Slam was supposed to retain that title, but the injury fucked all those plans up, and they ended up hot potatoing the International Championship. And if you think about it, if Jon Moxley were to wrestle on this particular show, he would have gotten that title back, if you think about it. So a title change was going to happen regardless. But giving it to Orange Cassidy, even though their plan, which I assume, and honestly, I think this would have made more sense, if Jon Moxley beat Rey Fenix and he was cleared to wrestle, I assume there was going to be a rematch between Orange Cassidy and Jon Moxley for that international title. So Orange Cassidy regaining the International Championship, even though I like the idea, I'm still kind of on the fence about it because, again, you spent damn near almost a whole year establishing Orange Cassidy as the International Championship only for him to lose to Jon Moxley in a great match, and it was a great story that was told throughout Orange Cassidy's title reign, and it was the right time for Cassidy to drop that title to Jon Moxley, and then all these plans got fucked up, and then you end up giving that title back to Orange Cassidy because Jon Moxley wasn't cleared to wrestle. Even though I'm on the fence of that, I still kind of get it. We're still probably going to get that rematch between Jon Moxley and Orange Cassidy. It's just, I feel like their plans got messed up very badly, and they have to do all this flip. I don't want to say flip-flop. I mean, they're not hot potatoing like they did the TNT Championship early this year, but again, the booking has been a little kind of outlandish all over the place if you really think about it. So that unfortunately sucks. It's not really their fault because of all the shit that's going on, but unfortunately, it is what it is. We get a backstage interview with timeless Toni Storm. Talks about how there isn't enough cinema, but she made her new short film. It's called Lover's Lament. It's a silent picture because who needs the noise when we have faces? And she says, play the picture, play the picture. And the short film plays during the picture-in-picture commercial break, which some fans didn't really understand why. They thought, it was kind of a missed opportunity for them to put it on commercial break, but I think it was intentional to put it on commercial break, and I think it makes total sense because she flat out said it's a silent picture, and during commercial break, all you hear is the commercials, and the video package of the short film is silent. So I thought this was pretty creative and absolutely hilarious. Toni Storm is doing the best work of her entire career, and honestly, they got to keep doing what they're doing with this. Meanwhile, we got Wardlow Yes, Wardlow made his return last week on Dynamite. He goes after Matt Sydal this time. He goes after Matt Sydal. He hits a powerbomb, hits a second powerbomb, a third powerbomb, and then a fourth powerbomb. The match immediately stops, and then Wardlow leaves. Now, with Wardlow leaving to the crowd, could this implement a new plan for Wardlow? Maybe there's a bigger story for Wardlow, because unfortunately, AEW, and I'm not the only one that says this, I think the entire fan base is saying this, one of their biggest fumbles was the fumbling of the momentum of Wardlow, because after that MJF feud, or during that MJF feud, I should say, last year, Wardlow was just on another fucking level. Like, this guy was on top of the world. And now with, him winning the TNT championship multiple times, they fucking fumbled his momentum so bad that they would be putting him in squash matches and they wouldn't really mean anything. Like, we'd see squash matches like back and forth like almost every fucking week, and like there'd just be no real meaning behind it. And now Wardlow's back, and it's very interesting with Wardlow just leaving towards the crowd. It's very, very, very interesting. Now, apparently, if fans have caught this on social media, apparently he has an armband or an arm tape of MJF's name on it. Could this signal a feud with Wardlow and MJF? We do not know, but this is the second week in a row that he's been in a squash match. Nothing wrong with a squash match, but we have seen this common occurrence with Wardlow on almost, ever since he broke out of MJF, we've been seeing this shit over and over and over again, and there was no real direction with Wardlow. So hopefully in this time, there is actually some sort of real direction with Wardlow, because Wardlow has just been fucked so badly by AEW, unfortunately. Renee Paquette interviews Chris Jericho. Daniel Garcia comes in, but then Daddy Magic questions Garcia, and he tells Garcia that you are better than this. So yeah. After that, we got Hangman Page versus the leader of the Bang Bang Gang, Bullet Club Gold, Switchblade Jay White. Jay tells Hangman that he will never take that title away from him. Of course, he's talking about the AEW World Championship belt. Jay White is holding that title because he took that title away from MJF. Even though he's acting like the real champion, he is not the real champion whatsoever. And my apologies, if you guys are watching this video and you see some lag and there's some delay within the video and the audio, my apologies. Again, OBS is just acting really stupid, but it is what it is. Okay, let's go through this match. We got a slap by, I believe it was Jay White on Hangman. Jay White retreats to the outside, both lock up. Jay then retreats once again to the outside, but then Hangman ends up hitting a crossbody off the top rope over the outside. After that, we get a chop by Hangman on Jay White. Once we're back in commercial break, Jay White goes for a series of chops on Hangman. Both men exchange shots, and then Jay White goes for the dragon screw. Jay mocks Hiroshi Tanahashi with the air guitar. And then we get a chop by Jay White, followed by a chop by Hangman, followed by a right hand. Jay White then gets caught into a driver by Hangman, but then Hangman catches Jay White into the follow-away slam. We get a running shooting star by Hangman, but then we get a cover and a near fall. Jay White then retreats to the outside. After that, Jay White gets caught in a powerbomb onto the apron by Hangman. Hangman then sends Jay White back into the ring, but then we get a powerbomb by Hangman. We then get a cover by Hangman and a near fall. Then we get a series of cowboy shit chants by the crowd. He ends up setting up the Deadeye. Jay White escapes. He grabs the knee of Hangman, and then he drives Hangman into the corner turnbuckle in the corner. Both men are on the apron. He drops Hangman down on his knee on the apron, but then once we're back in commercial break, Hangman is on the top rope. Jay White also goes to the top. Hangman hits a follow-away slam off the top, but then Jay White drives down the knee of Hangman. He ends up hitting the Uranagi, and then we get a cover by Jay White and a near fall. Jay applies the side headlock. We get a chop by Jay White, but then Hangman ends up firing back. We get a rolling elbow by Hangman, but then Hangman is on the apron. Jay catches him and hits a dragon screw on the ropes. At this point, Jay White is on the top. He hits the Uranagi off the top, or I should say a super Uranagi. After that, Hangman drives him down, leading Jay White to the outside. Hangman goes to the top. He hits the Orihara moonsault. Jay White gets sent back into the ring, but then Jay White ends up going for a flatliner into a deadlift German suplex. We get a chop by Jay White. He hits the sleeper suplex, but then Hangman ends up getting up. He ends up hitting a furious lariat. AEW loves their lariats. Of course, Hangman is known for his lariats as well. Hangman goes to the apron, but then he stops the buckshot lariat, and then Jay White tries to go for the Blade Runner, but then he counters, or I should say Hangman counters into the Deadeye. Bullet Club Gold distracts the referee. We get a cover by Hangman and a near fall, but out of nowhere, Prince Nana, well, there's a delay, but my apologies. But Prince Nana comes in with the crown. Hangman tries to take the crown away, but Jay White ends up going for a roll-up, and Jay White wins the match. At this point, Hangman is pissed off. Prince Nana runs to the back while Hangman chases him out. Meanwhile, Jay White is in the ring celebrating his win with Hangman Adam Page, and who comes out? The real AEW World Champion, of course, our scumbag, Mr. Maxwell Jacob Friedman. I'm not going to call him the asshole anymore. He is our scumbag because he is a nice guy now. MJF comes out. Jay White is in the ring. And he says, "Look at me, Jay, you son of a bitch. You wanted the main event match for the world title? You got it. You're welcome. Now give me back the Triple B, of course, the Big Burberry belt." Jay replies, okay, I just got a 4-0 win streak against Hangman Page, and we do not want to hear right now from MJF. No. We want to hear from the Switchblade Jay White, so shh. After that, he says, your scumbag wants the Triple B. You want the Bang Bang belt? Well, I was going to say yes until you were rude, so no, and blame the people because it is their fault. MJF then says he will be the bigger man. He knows him better than he actually knows him. Lord knows he is trying because he is the guy who doesn't give a damn about anybody else. He will use and abuse people. And those guys standing around you in the ring, of course he's talking about Juice Robinson and the Guns. Those guys standing around you, deep down, you could give less of a shit. Of course, you are using them to get to where you want to be, and that's right out of the MJF playbook, which is very true. Every day he wakes up and he tries to be a better man, and it's very hard. He absolutely hates it, but he knows it's worth it, and he knows it is working. And for the first time in his life, he has earned the people's respect. Now, Jay White, there are two things in this life that he himself, that being MJF, cares about. He cares about, of course, his brother Adam Cole, and, of course, he cares about that title. And he calls it a belt, but it ain't a belt. That is his livelihood. It is his legacy because when he wins, that makes you the best wrestler in the goddamn world. Now, Jay White, he hates his guts. If those schmucks didn't surround you in the ring, he would have broken his legs. However, he knows how talented he is. He knows that he is elite, and he is sure someday he will join the club of being an AEW World Champion. However, that day ain't today, and he will ask him to do the hard thing. Dig Deep, and by the way, Dig Deep is basically his theme song because his theme song is basically a song from the copyright-free section on YouTube Studio. Just saying. Be a man. Show some dignity and respect, but not to him, but to AEW, the fans, and the sport of professional wrestling. And give him back what he hasn't earned yet. My apologies. Jay White then says, he's just asking for this, but you can't just ask for this. You got to earn it, and you got to win it officially. Be patient. You'll get your chance where you will fail, says Jay White. But Max, if he can't be patient, he could easily come down and take it, but it's 5-on-1. Find 3 people that can tolerate you and team up with anyone against the Bang Bang Gang. Juice then says he's heard through a grapevine that next week is the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal for his ring, which is very weird because usually doesn't that take place during Winter is Coming? I don't know. It's very weird. But he throws his name in and he says he will whoop his ass and take his ring. And guess what? He will give him a present. And he has it wrapped. And it has his name on it. $10 of quarters. Now, this was very controversial, if you guys see right here. This was a very, very, very controversial segment, given everything that has been basically going on in the world over in Israel, all that stuff, and it left a bad taste on a lot of fans' mouth. Now, Juice says it's $10 of quarters, and he will put a roll of quarters, and he will end his life, or I should say, he will put that roll of quarters and basically throw it at him. MJF gets pissed off and he says he will end his life, you piece of shit. And then MJF is so torn, he gets so emotional, he leaves. Okay, as I stated earlier, this was a very, I'm trying to choose my words wisely. This was a very controversial, part of the segment that left a really bad taste in a lot of fans' mouths. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this wasn't intentionally to offend anybody. I think the only problem with this whole thing was the timing of everything. Given the timing of everything, I could understand why fans are upset. And if you are upset, I 100% understand. But I wasn't one of those fans, because when I know everything that is going on in the world, I get it. But when Juice Robinson pulled out the quarters, number one, Juice Robinson has been using the quarters for a while now with the left hand and the quarters. He's been doing that for a while, but MJF's story of, the quarters, if you guys do not recall back to the CM Punk story where we really dove deep into why MJF is what he is and why he is the person that he is, he explained to us about, him getting bullied and, him getting quarters thrown at him, and they were saying, pick it up, all that stuff. That was basically the whole moral of the story, and the entire portion of the segment was to really tear apart MJF as a character so then he can, bounce back and really become strong in the end. That was the whole point of this particular segment. The only problem with this segment was the timing of everything. Usually timing can affect you in the best way or the worst way, and unfortunately it affected AEW in a bad way, because now a lot of people are accusing AEW of, offending a lot of people, all that stuff. My opinion, if you're offended by this, look, that is your opinion, and I 100% stand by it. But my view is different. This wasn't intentional on AEW's end. It's just the timing of everything, and it only fit with the story. Do I think is as big of a deal that people are making it out to be? No, but at the end of the day, if MJF approved this, because I don't think it was a situation in which they pulled a gun to MJF's head and says, oh no, you have to do this. I think MJF clearly knew the whole purpose of this segment, and MJF, I assume, was the one that approved it, given everything that is going on right now in the world. So I think that the only issue with this whole segment was the matter of timing, and that's it. And if you are upset about that, I 100% understand, and I'm not going to go after you for that, because, again, it's a very serious and terrible situation that is going on right now. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on that. But, nonetheless, the segment itself, I thought it was a pretty good segment. Of course, this is to build towards MJF versus Jay White. And, I think the idea of Jay White versus MJF, even though it's a little bit too early, one thing I can say about MJF's title reign so far is that ever since the Adam Cole and MJF thing started, it's been very unpredictable to see where the direction is going, because everybody has been saying, including myself, that MJF is going to have the title up until the end of the year, or, past the end of the year into next year, which that very well may be true. And of course, with CM Punk, when he was deeming himself the real world champion, everybody was saying, oh, they're going to build towards the bidding war of 2024 because, CM Punk did the same thing, and, we're going to have CM Punk versus MJF 3, but unfortunately we got robbed of that twice now. MJF's title reign, even though it has been really good, it's been very unpredictable to see where the direction is going. And that could be a bad thing, but at the same time, that can be a good thing. I think him having a match with Jay White, even though I don't think that was in the plans initially because of everything that is going on with Adam Cole, I think the Adam Cole injury kind of spearheaded this whole feud with Jay White and MJF. I may be totally wrong, but that is just my opinion on the nature of the situation. I think this is a great feud, and I think Jay White, I don't give a shit what anybody says. I've been enjoying the work that Jay White has been doing on AEW TV ever since he officially signed with the company earlier this year. And I think all the work that Jay White has been doing, he was not a guy that was kind of like being booked like a guy that would normally come in or who would normally be a new signing. They did not, give him the Keith Lee treatment. And unfortunately, they fumbled Keith Lee very badly. I don't give a shit what anybody says. If there's anybody that came from the WWE that has been fumbled very badly, it is unfortunately Keith Lee. They didn't Keith Lee Jay White. Jay White, they saw the talent that Jay White had, and they used it to their advantage and also to his advantage as well, and they created gold, no pun intended, with Bullet Club Gold. And I remember when Collision first started, I've always stated Bullet Club Gold is going to be the top faction within a year. Do I still think that way? Honestly, I don't know, but another question that we need to ask ourselves is, could this be the night where Jay White beats MJF for the AEW World Championship? Honestly, no. Could we see a turn happen? Who knows? But it's very interesting. I think the match is going to be phenomenal. I think both men are going to work their asses off. The match already intrigues me after everything that they have done, and they have really taken the feud to another personal level. I mean, granted, it's not with Jay White, it's with Juice Robinson, but they really affected MJF's character in a way that even though he's a babyface, he's still tempted to do a lot of heelish things and do bad things, and I really like that dynamic with MJF's character. So hopefully they can keep it up with that. And MJF's babyface work has been phenomenal lately. So great stuff. The quarter thing, I understand why fans are upset. I'm not going to dive deep in that like I did before, but I didn't view it as a big deal. But again, if you're mad about that, I cannot blame you. It did come off a little bad, but in my opinion, I think it was just the timing of the nature of the situation, given that everything that is going on, and that is it. But I don't think it was as intentional as people thought it was. I think it's just timing. The timing was just terrible. Lovers Lament Act 2 during the commercial break with Timeless Tony Storm. Then after that, we had Shida wrestling Saraya for the AEW Women's World Championship. Now, I'm not going to really dive deep into this match, but it was a fine match. Basically what happens is somebody is behind Shida with the spray paint. It ended up being Ruby Soho. Ruby gets blinded by Shida from the spray paint. After that, Tony Storm runs out of nowhere from behind and beats the shit out of Ruby Soho with the shoe. Remember, the little thing that Tony Storm always says, chin up, tits out, and watch for the shoe. After that, Saraya regains control. Once we're back from commercial break, both women fight it out. Shida goes for a jumping knee strike, but then Shida's on the second rope hitting repeated right hands. We then get a dropkick on the middle rope by Shida. Later on, she ends up hitting the Meteor on the outside. Once we're back into the ring, Shida goes for the running knee. We get a cover and a near fall. We get a kick by Shida, but then Shida goes to the top. She lands into a kick by Saraya. Then she goes for the kneecap or whatever the fuck it was called. Holy shit. My notes are terrible. Saraya then goes for the kendo stick where she has the kendo stick, and she basically puts the spray paint on her tights. After that, the referee sees the stick. She takes it away, and what happens is she ends up spraying Shida, but she hits the finishing move. We get a cover into near fall. But after that, Shida ends up hitting the Falcon Arrow, and then we get a cover by Shida. Both women go for a series of roll-up reversals, and then we get a roll-up by Shida, and Shida gets the 1-2-3, dethroning Saraya, and wins once again for the third time. And I believe this is the first time a woman has been a 3-time AEW Women's World Champion. Shida is, for the third time, your new AEW Women's World Champion. Overall thoughts on this, the match was okay. Saraya, with all due respect, is not really at her best in the ring. And after this title change, I think we all know why they put the belt on Saraya. They put the belt on her for the sake of the moment in London at All In. That's the only reason why they put the belt on her. I was completely against that idea to begin with, so it's great that Shida has the belt back. Yes, there is some hot potatoing with the Women's Championship. Me personally, even though it was great to see the title change, it would have made a little more sense for Tony Storm to be the one to dethrone Saraya for that women's title, because right now Tony Storm is really, I don't want to say the top woman in the division right now, but she is the most interesting right now in the women's division. So I do think Tony Storm will eventually win the women's championship, but I think they're going to do a little bit more build up with her character before she gets to that AEW Women's World Championship. But as of right now, Hikaru Shida is, once again, your AEW Women's Champion. I'm not mad about it. It came out of nowhere because at the end of the day, why would I be mad about it if I was complaining a lot about Saraya not really doing anything with the Women's Championship? When it comes to Saraya, it went to a point where Chris Statlander was viewed and being booked more importantly than Saraya as the Women's Champion. Now, think about this. Statlander is the current TBS champion. Saraya is the Women's Champion. The booking, especially the booking, Statlander has been treated way more importantly throughout Saraya's title reign than Saraya during her own title reign. That's just my opinion on the nature of the beast. But Shida is your new women's champion, and I honestly cannot complain. All right, moving on. Don Callis is backstage. He requested 10 minutes before he was denied, and he basically pulls a Sammy Guevara during the commercial break, and Takeshita has a shit ton of signs during the picture-in-picture break. He says Hobbs destroyed Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho. The Don Callis family is here to exact revenge, and revenge is far from over. Sammy Guevara will be back, and you will pay for what you did to him. After that, once we're back from commercial break, MJF is in a backstage interview, and he says that normally he would be freaking out, but he just wants to call his boy and get some advice. So Renee, he's like, with all due respect, I'm sorry, I don't want to be interviewed right now. And he calls Adam Cole, and it takes a while. MJF wants him to pick up. Cole finally picks up, and Cole apologizes, and MJF says he needs his help. And Cole is saying that there's no service in Roddy's apartment, in Roddy's house. There's no service. The phone is bad, and basically what happens is the connection just fucks up, and Cole probably, unfortunately, by accident, hangs up. And then the Acclaimed come in, and basically Max Caster gets all flirty, as he has been doing on social media. They want to team together, but then MJF leaves. Then Billy Gunn asks him, what is your infatuation with him? And then Caster says that they've been friends for 10 years, and yeah, I want to help him out. Which I think he wants to do more than helping him out, if you know what I mean. Adam Copeland versus Luchasaurus. All right. So before the match even starts, Mr. Instant Savage, Christian Cage, cuts a promo. Kansas City. Okay, I'm not going to do my Christian Cage impersonation, but he says, keep the noise down when he conducts his business. You should be happy to have a champion that you can be proud of, unlike your Kansas City Chiefs. He doesn't need extra help to get his wins. He left a lot of people's jaws on the floor with the words that he said to Adam Copeland. He found it interesting that he said that Luchasaurus and Nick Wayne will turn on him based on his experience in the past. But he didn't take one group and dress them like it was Halloween. Of course, he is mentioning the one and only Judgment Day, which is right now one of the hottest acts in WWE right now. He ain't their leader. He is their father, and that is the difference. And that also made him laugh and also crack a smile when he made the rah-rah speech. But let's finish our careers together. But it's funny when he said that sentiment because he wasn't there when he was being held back, when he was more talented, or the more talented of the two. When we were your tag team aspirations, how many times have changed? As his career went on a downward spiral, his career has been climbing up. He is the most talked about star in the business today, and the fact that he needs him is crazy because right now he doesn't need him. But I can't blame you because you have a lot of fans, and in fact, he knows his wife Beth is a huge fan. Uh-oh. And he will go ahead and have his right hand of destruction end him once and for all and make sure that his kids will be taken care of. You fucking asshole. Put some clean sheets on the bed because your new father is coming home. Edge then comes out, and when I call him Edge, my apologies, it's going to be very tough to call him Adam Copeland. So throughout the majority of this match, I'm just going to call him Edge. Edge comes out, Nick Wayne comes in, Luchasaurus takes him out, but then Copeland gets up. So the match then begins. So after that, the match starts. Luchasaurus goes for a lariat. Basically, he hits a tombstone. We get a cover and a near fall. Christian is sitting on the ramp with the TNT Championship because he is Christian Cage. And we get a boot by Luchasaurus. He then bumps the head of Copeland onto the top turnbuckle, and then he chokes Edge, and then he sends him into the corner. We get a slam by Luchasaurus on Copeland, but then we get a right hand. Edge fights back. Both men exchange shots. Luchasaurus then goes for a series of combination strikes. We then get a suplex by Luchasaurus. Luchasaurus continues to be in control, but then Luchasaurus ends up going for a boot, taking him to the outside. Once we're back from commercial break, Edge gets taken to the outside. Nick Wayne sends Copeland into the ring post, but then Luchasaurus moves the steel steps. After that, Copeland and Luchasaurus are on the apron. Edge tries to fight back, but then he hits a dropkick on the knee of Luchasaurus. Edge then ends up hitting a tornado DDT on Luchasaurus on the outside. Edge goes to the top. After that, he hits a crossbody onto the back of Luchasaurus. Both men then fight it out. Edge runs into a headbutt, but then he counters Luchasaurus with the execution, or as Excalibur would stay on commentary, the Impaler. After that, we get a cover and a near fall. Edge goes to the top, but then Luchasaurus sits up. Luchasaurus then goes for a boot on Edge, but then Edge is on the top with Luchasaurus. He hits repeated right hands, but then Edge goes for a superplex on Luchasaurus. Christian Cage then distracts the referee. Nick Wayne places a chair into the corner, but then Edge lands on the chair, which leads to Luchasaurus to hit the chokeslam. After that, we get a cover and a near fall, but then both men boot one another. Edge continues to fight off Luchasaurus. He gets caught by Luchasaurus, but then Edge ends up hitting the Edge-O-Matic. Then he runs over the steps and spears Luchasaurus, which was probably my favorite spot on the entire match. Then once we're back into the ring, Christian Cage comes in with the referee distracted. Edge snatches the belt away, and then he hits Luchasaurus with the belt without the referee looking. After that, Luchasaurus turns around and he thinks Christian Cage was the one that hit him with the belt, which leads to Edge, or I believe hitting the spear, and he wins the match. After the match, Nick Wayne goes for a chop block, but then Bryan Danielson, the man he will face, that being Christian Cage, will face this Saturday on Collision, comes out of nowhere, and he makes the save, and then the heels continue to gain the advantage. Claudio and Wheeler Yuta come in, the Mogul Embassy come out, then the brawl breaks loose. Edge spears Nick Wayne. Meanwhile, Edge just looks behind when Bryan Danielson just applies the label lock on Christian Cage, with the show ending. So basically, Dynamite had a Nitro-like ending with a bunch of pandemonium going on all over the ring, multiple feuds interacting with one another, which you absolutely fucking dig, to say the least. Overall thoughts on this. This was great. I really enjoyed this for what it was. It was awesome. I enjoyed the match. I think Edge looked phenomenal. Everything that he did in this match, I expected. And Edge's first match being Luchasaurus, honestly, I'm not mad about that whatsoever. Of course, this is going to be eventually leading up towards an Edge versus Christian Cage match. Do I think it's going to be at Full Gear? I don't think so. I mean, because at the end of the day, we're going to eventually see a one-on-one match between Christian and Edge, but we're also going to be seeing down the line a reunion between Christian Cage and Edge at the same time as a tag team. But the nature of the beast, it's going to be very interesting to see what they do, because even though I'd be happy for them to do it at Full Gear, I think Full Gear is a little bit too early. So I think they're going to stretch the story out a little bit longer. And I think they're going to, the payoff is going to be very tremendous when it comes to the story between Edge and Christian Cage. That is all I see happening. But nonetheless, I thought this was a great opening match, and I thought Edge looked phenomenal. Luchasaurus was great as well. And I'm excited to see what the future holds for both of these men, especially Adam Copeland. Christian Cage right now is just on another fucking level. But yeah, that was my AEW Dynamite review, Title Tuesday. From, of course, October 10th, 2023. Overall thoughts on this show. I really enjoyed this show. It was a great show. Of course, they lost in the ratings, but who gives a shit? I know the fans are making a big, big, big deal out of it. I know Tony Khan is making a big deal out of it, which honestly, as a promoter, you do, but at the same time, even after the ratings came out, like, who gives a shit? I don't know why you're tweeting out the shit that you're tweeting out, but it is what it is. Nonetheless, I enjoyed Dynamite. My apologies for the lag as well. I know there's been a lot of lag on this video, and there's been I can see it right now on OBS. The delay is absolutely atrocious. The audio is not matching the picture and the screen, so my apologies for that. But nonetheless, that was my AEW Dynamite review, Title Tuesday for October 10th, 2023. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Push that bell for notifications. Look out for more videos right here on the Wrestle Havoc podcast, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the frickin' referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys later. Peace.